You know, all of these things are global issues.
But you have refused, Alice, to have your book translated into Hebrew for an Israeli publisher. Can you talk about your decision and who the publisher was?
Yes, well, actually it was already published there in 80-something. And at that time there was no cultural boycott of Israel for its apartheid practices and its persecution of the Palestinian people. But now there is a boycott, and so I respect that boycott in the same way that I respected the boycott when there was apartheid in South Africa, and we were contemplating sending the film there, and I lobbied against it.
Talk about the parallels you make.
Mean apartheid ones? Well, first of all, in Israel and the occupied territories, there's this gigantic wall, which is, I think, the most offensive symbol of the apartheid. It not only segregates the Palestinians from the Israelis, but they also, at the same time, have stolen so much Palestinian land. I mean, they've essentially stolen what was all of Palestine, and it's just horrible to see the treatment of the people. I mean, the checkpoints are dreadful. We went through some of them, and the way the Palestinians are treated is so reminiscent of the way black people were treated in the South when I was growing up. And it's an intolerable situation, and that our country backs this treatment by standing with Israel through thick and thin is just unbearable.
I wanted to turn to a clip of South African Archbishop Desmond Tutu talking about apartheid, talking about South Africa, and talking about Israel.
Coming from South Africa and going, I mean, and looking at the checkpoints and the arrogance of those young soldiers, probably scared, maybe covering up their apprehension. There's no way in which I couldn't say. Of course, that is the truth. It reminds me of the kind of experiences that we underwent. I mean, I was Bishop of Johannesburg, and would be driving from town to Soweto, where we lived, and I would be driving with my wife, and we'd have a roadblock, and the fact of our having to have passes allowing us to move freely in the land of our birth. And now you have that extraordinary structure, that the wall. And I do not myself believe that it has improved security, breaking up families, breaking up, I mean, people who used to be able to walk from their homes to school, children, now have to take a detour that lasts several minutes. It's when you humiliate a people to the extent that they are being, and yes, one remembers the kind of experience we had when we were being humiliated. When you do that, you're not contributing to your own security.
Retired South African Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Alice Walker, your response.
Well, I'm very happy that Desmond Tutu speaks out on this issue, because so many people are afraid to speak at all. And I think this is very dangerous. I think that wherever there is this kind of oppression, wherever you see people who are being humiliated, it's our duty as human beings and as citizens of the planet to speak. If that's all we can do, speak at least.
You were in Gaza. Our producer, Anjali Kamet, in 2009, interviewed you while you were there. I want to play a clip of that.
It's shocking beyond anything I have ever experienced, and it's actually so horrible that it's basically unbelievable, even though I'm standing here and I've been walking here and I've been looking at things here. It still feels like, you know, you could never convince anyone that this is actually what is happening and what has happened to these people and what the Israeli government has done. It will be a very difficult thing for anyone to actually believe in. So it's totally important that people come to visit and to see for themselves. Because the world community that cares about peace and cares about truth and cares about justice will have to find a way to deal with this. We cannot let this go as if it's just okay, especially those of us in the United States who pay for this. You know, I have come here in part to see what I'm buying with my tax money.
That was the Pulitzer Prize-winning author Alice Walker in Gaza in 2009. Last summer, she was one of the activists on the U.S. ship that attempted to sail to Gaza as part of the Freedom Flotilla aimed at challenging Israel's embargo of the Gaza Strip. Dubbed the Audacity of Hope after President Obama's best-selling book, the U.S. ship was stopped by Greek authorities just as it set sail. Alice Walker spoke to Democracy Now! Producer Aaron Mate from the ship as it was being turned back.
It feels really good to know that the world is watching, that there are people on this earth who care about the people of Gaza so much that we all got out of our houses and into our various cars and planes, and we made it to this boat, and we actually tried to cross the water to get to the people of Gaza, especially to the children who need to know that the world is here and the world cares and the world sees, and a lot of us love them, and we do not agree that they should be brutalized and harmed.
That was Alice Walker speaking on the Freedom Flotilla. She's now serving on the jury of the Russell Tribunal on Palestine, an international people's tribunal created in 2009 to bring attention to the responsibility other states bear for Israel's violations of international law. The Russell Tribunal will be holding its 4th international session in New York, October 6th. You are going to be there, Alice Walker.
I will be there, yes. I will be there with some wonderful people, including Angela Davis, Cynthia McKinney, Myreed McGuire, Stefan Hessel.
The Nobel Peace Prize winner.
Yes, lots of wonderful, Michael Mansfield, a lot of really good people.
Noam Chomsky will also be.
Will be
and
there.
And what will
Dennis
you do?
Banks. Well, we will hear testimony about why it is that nothing seems to move. The UN makes resolutions, you know, and they're ignored. And there's so many resolutions. The one that particularly pains my heart is Resolution 194. I think that's the number, which says to Israel that you cannot keep the Palestinians who were forced out of their homes, you cannot prevent them from returning to their homes. And I'm such a believer that people need to have a place to live that is theirs, that they should never be run out of their own place. And if they are run out, they should be able to return there. And this, with so many other resolutions, was ignored and has never been addressed. And the United States is complicit because it backs Israel no matter what. And I think this is corrupting, I think, for our young people especially, to see that, you know, justice in this case is just never even thought about.
You made comparisons to the South. Talk about your growing up and about your family.
Well, my family was a poor farming family, and we lived under absolute segregation. Although, even though, you know, all of the hotels and the motels and the restaurants and the water fountains, all those things were segregated, we didn't have segregated roads, which you do have in the occupied territories, roads that only Jewish settlers can use, and the Palestinians have these little tracks. You know, these little paths, often, you know, obstructed by boulders. And that is how they're supposed to move around, for the most part. And the unfairness of it is so much like the South. It's so much like the South of, you know, I don't know, 50 years ago, really. and actually more brutal, because in Palestine, so many more people are wounded, shot, killed, imprisoned. You know, there are thousands of Palestinians in prison, virtually for no reason.
Do you feel like public opinion is changing in the United States?
I feel that public opinion is changing, and I think it's because people have decided that, you know, we're all in such danger. We're all in harm's way now. And people are awakening to the fact that unless we take care of each other, nobody is safe. There will never be safety.
Alice Walker, we're going